Hey everyone, I want to introduce the legendary creator Tyler James. He is from the US. He out of Massachusetts, did you say? That's it? Yeah. And
I'm a New Yorker by born, so it's always difficult to live in Massachusetts. But I've been here for a good chunk of my life now. So yeah,
he's the legendary director or creator of Comics Tribe. He's the organizer of Comics Launch. He's raised on Kickstarter with 29 projects, a total of about $930,000 roughly. He's just an amazing creator in general. He's a writer, artist, a motivator, a coach. He's coached me. I want to thank him again personally because he's done some amazing things. He's helped me to have one of the highest funded comics in Australia on Kickstarter and novels. Here is Tyler James. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you on my channel. So yeah,
Anthony, my friend, I know it's been a minute, but I'm excited to be here as you're getting your new channel off the ground, and I've just been thrilled. I'm thrilled and honored to be on here with one of Australia's foremost comic book crowdfunders and artists, and I've been so thrilled to see your stuff evolve and see you sort of bringing your sort of dream studio to life over the past couple of years, and it's fun to watch your growth too, man. So I'm happy to be here and happy to have a chat with you.
thank you. Likewise, man. So tell the viewers a little bit about you. I mean, like for those that don't know, you've got comics, you've got like The Sink, you've got Wailing Blade, you've done Seas for Cthulhu. Like, just tell us a little bit. I mean, there's definitely a vibe about you. You've got the horror kind of vibe going there.
Mm.
So, like, tell us a little bit about your comics, your universe, Yeah, so go for it.
Yeah, what I've produced and published over the years has definitely been an evolution, and I think we occasionally will have people that have been following my journey since the very beginning. I had somebody tell me he's been following my career for 13 years the other day, and I'm like, whoa! Like he pulled out like one of the like first self-published things I ever had and ever put out into the world, and sold like 5 copies at a convention one time, and he had one. So it's been it's just interesting how things will evolve over the years. But I got started in this game very young. I was, I think, 12 years old when I started working on my first comic, and I started selling it out of my backpack in high school, and just copies that I printed up on my dad's work photocopier, and that really got things rolling. But yeah, I've been publishing and been acting as the publisher of Comics Tribe since 2011, and we started out with a few superhero genre twist series, and but over time we've sort of evolved into producing more horror and horror stuff, but occasionally we'll do something interesting. Last year I worked with 2 fellow Aussies, and we had our biggest graphic novel launch for what was essentially a sci-fi kung fu action tale featuring warring sisters battling over the family dragon, and
Oh wow.
that was called A Fistful of Pain, with Ryan K. Lindsay and Louis Joyce on writing and arting duties respectively, and myself as the editor and publisher. And so yeah, I am at this point probably most interested in working with creators who I like and whose work I respect, and and I often see it's my job to find a way to sell and get the audience that we've built over the years excited about it, because we've been able to over time shift them from, hey, these are some superhero series, a little bit more sort of big two-ish fare, to let's push the envelope with some long-running crime horror series like Sink, as you mentioned. Wailing Blade was a dystopian sci-fi fantasy, which is another one, and we just are soon to be wrapping up Happy Hill, which is a vacation horror tale with some supernatural elements to it. And so one of the common threads though is people, because I've most of the artists and writers that I publish now, I've been working with for, many years now. And that's kind of what makes it fun for me.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've definitely met. I know Ryan K. Lindsay and Louis Joyce personally. Like I've actually
Yeah.
tabled near them and everything. So you're picking the right people, the right dudes.
Yeah, the right mates, right? That's what they say.
Mate.
Good
That's it,
mates. Yeah.
mate. You got it, mate. Now, obviously, I mean, you've probably answered this question a little bit, but what do you love about it the most? It's probably you said that you love working with people, you love the horror
Mm.
genre, but is there anything else that you love about it, like that we haven't talked about, or
Yeah, so much of what we've produced over the years has kind of been a reaction and in many ways in collaboration, or at least in conversation with the audience that we've grown. And I'm so thrilled that we have platforms like Kickstarter that allow you to build a fan base, easily sell to that fan base, have that be an international fan base. And when you deliver, as when you deliver on your past promises and provide a great product and a great experience, they're eager and excited to buy more and come back. And they're also excited to tell, everyone they know about some of their favorite products and creators. So a lot of where the business has gone has kind of been organic. So for example, as we started having some success with Kickstarter for some of our comic series, I was sort of randomly approached by a creator that I'd worked with on a couple of anthology shorts. This is writer Jason Charamella, and he had always had this idea kicking in the back of his head for a children's board book, and based on the characters of H.P. Lovecraft. And so I ended up helping him put that project together and recruited the artist for that, who became a partner with what became its own really cool brand and sort of side hustle. And if you had asked me 10 years ago, would I ever be publishing children's books, that I would have had no interest. But fast forward 10 years, and now I have a 5-year-old of my own, and I'm so glad that I got into that space, because we've got the children's books and the plush toys and everything. But so many of the ideas for what to do with that brand, and even some of our comics brands, have come as a reaction to what our fans are reacting to. So the idea for plush toys, for example, came from fans being like, that would make a really good plush. In next month we'll be launching and expanding the line of plush toys beyond just Cthulhu. So taking some of the other characters from the series and doing plush toys of those characters. And so I'm excited to see how that launch performs. But so much of that has been a conversation and a really focusing on building that audience, of course, selling to that audience, and then watching what makes that audience what they really gravitate towards, and giving them more to it. Like, if there's any secret to this game, it is that, and to do it in a way where you're also working on projects that you yourself love, like when you can sort of find that right fit of the audience really wants it, you really want to create it. What better job is there in the world?
Yeah, for sure. That's great. And do you have any influences of, I mean, obviously we've got writers and artists that influence us.
Yeah.
Like, for you, is there a particular artist or writer that you have admired, or creator that, you look at as being a great influence? Or is there someone in business, even if it's not artistically, is there some sort of, I know, is it like someone like Bill Gates? I don't want to say that name, but is it someone like Elon Musk? I don't know, but is there any influence, whether it's creative or business, that has inspired you, kind of given you motivation in a way, like, or someone that you look and you go, wow, I want to be like, when I grow up, I want to be like them, So
yeah. So I mean, I don't think you get very far in this game without having pockets of inspiration and mentors and encouragers and people that you've watched, sometimes with envy, but envy is usually just a uh, a compass pointing in the direction of where you yourself want to go. And so, envy doesn't have to be a bad thing. And so yeah, there's been plenty of that through the years. I think, my very first influences, I was very much influenced by the early image creators and that movement where, five of the top dogs at Marvel and DC busted off and created their own comic book universe from scratch. And that appealed to me so much as a kid because for the first time ever, I could get in on the ground floor and get everything. Like at that time, there was no reprints or graphic novels or digital archives. You could never buy or read all of Spider-Man or all of Batman. But when Spawn #1 launched, or when Youngblood #1 or Wildcats #1 launched, I'm like, wait a minute, like this stuff is really cool, and I can get in on the ground floor. And it suddenly triggered for me the recognition of, oh wait, hey, wait a minute, these comics things, they haven't always just existed, and they weren't something that were just features of the world, like the Statue of Liberty or something. Like, no, like these were things that had always been there. Like these were ideas and universes and worlds that were created by actual people. And when I looked into it, some of those people weren't even that much older than me at the time. And so it was like, not only did that inspire me to like, hey, jump in and become a serious comic fan and comic collector, but it quickly turned me into a comic creator, saying, hey, I want to have some fun and create my own universes too. So that was sort of like the early on influences.
Yeah.
And then over the years, yeah, go ahead.
Like people like Todd McFarlane, all those sort of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, McFarland, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Rob Liefeld, like the Image founders, Eric Silvestri, Larson, Eric Larson, Mark Silvestri. Huge impact on me early on. And then, over the years, there were some other creators, like, because I took, like, after when I went to school or to university, my comic production, which had been like super prolific, and I would draw and create comics every single day when I was in high school, but it dropped to next to nothing when I went to college, and then to absolute zero for the first couple of years when I was starting my career and doing some really demanding jobs. And after a few years of not doing any comics at all, there was just like this serious void in my my life, and when I come to recognize that it was a creative void. Like I had always been a creative person, and now I was like punching a clock and coming home and watching bad reality TV and kind of miserable. And it was actually taking a script writing class by a creator named A. David Lewis, who was teaching like a continuing education script writing class on comic book scripting. And I'm like, I didn't know that was even a class that anyone would teach. And I didn't know that, and like I'd never actually, even though I had sort of done a couple hundred pages of comics, I had never actually written or seen a comic book script before. And so I sort of got to put on my learning hat and then discovered like the next wave of image creators and guys like Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Miller, guys that were just doing really cool, innovative stuff on the platform. And also then went back and deep dived into Alan Moore and the process of writing comics and storytelling. And because prior to that, all of my work had always been sort of on the fly creating, like one panel at a time and on to the next panel on the next page, but not really doing a lot of plotting and figuring it out. And I just absolutely fell in love with the scripting aspect of it. Yeah. And that got me back into it. And I've sort of been rolling ever since. But every couple of years, new mentors, new inspiration, new people to follow and people to watch. And that's, definitely helped me continue to evolve and to grow.
Actually, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. So this question isn't a thing because you've got me, you triggered another question. For the viewers that might be learning about writing or scripting comics, do you suggest like 3 or 4 books that they can read that will help them with their writing or strengthen their writing? Like, is there any? Look, I know a few I could go into. I've got a few here, but what, you know, I want to know where do you get your where did you get your education from? Like, did you obviously you went to that course, but was there any books that you found that were helpful, or can you recommend any? So yeah, where's that?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some good ones out there. And the, the how, I mean, the place where I still put, I put so many copies of the classic book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, into kids' hands, because I still think that is one of the best sort of initial exposures to creating comics that anyone can get. That's the classic Stan Lee book. And so I still love that book, dated references and old school style and all. But in terms of comic book writing, Brian Bendis put out a book recently or not recently, it's several years old now, older now. But I thought that was a pretty enjoyable book to hits things at a couple of different angles. I think Scott McCloud's resources are sort of must have and must consume. In the free category, I also find just like looking at comic book scripts can be incredibly helpful. And so I know Comics Experience has a comic book script archive that has just all these published scripts for some of your favorite books that is always worth just studying and breaking down. So yeah, there's a lot of resources. I've got a big shelf of them over there. So those are a few that come to mind.
Yeah, tell me about it. So you talked about your audience. You know, your audience comes through Kickstarter, or you've got, you know, you're well known for being great at marketing. Like that's probably how we met. But how do you grow your audience for your comics and your products? Like, there's many ways of doing it. Like, say for someone that's beginning or even has got some experience in marketing,
Yeah.
what do you think is like, you know, what is the main ways that you do it? So, and yeah.
Yeah. So obviously it's a great question. You know, obviously the best thing to have is to have a product that you feel personally great about and you are super passionate about and proud and, want as many people as possible to read. I know, like, there's a lot of creators, I think, that self-sabotage themselves because they all they focus on is the flaws in their work as opposed to some of the joy. And if you don't believe in your own work, it's going to become very hard for you to go out there and inspire other people to really get behind it and check it out and read it. And so that's kind of the first thing, But in terms of actually discovering not just fans or getting eyeballs, but customers, like, the Kickstarter platform is still one of the most valuable things that you can do. You can be on and launch on consistently and pretty regularly. We've had we're talking about that $938,000 or whatever raised so far for the projects that I've launched. That's some 18,000 backers or some ridiculous number of total human beings that have contributed to those projects. But the interesting thing that I always find every time we launch is that there's still, like, usually hundreds, if not more, of new backers, first-time backers for us that are jumping on board every time we launch. And that's just, one of the coolest things about that platform is that launching successfully and bringing your whatever fan base that you can towards a launch and having that launch pop on a platform like Kickstarter that has a lot of traffic and a lot of people at it, like that launching, that actually going out there and selling something is actually among one of the best ways to grow your audience and to build your audience, and not just your audience, but your customer base. So making sure that you are prioritizing launching. I think early on, and a lot of creators get in their own heads where they're like, "Oh, I've got to do all of these things. That I got to have the list building of this and the Twitter and the Instagram and what's TikTok. I got to get on there and maybe my YouTube channel and I got to have this many interviews and this many fancy stuff." When sure, all of that stuff will compound and it will make your Kickstarter launches easier. But if you are delaying your Kickstarter launches to do all of that stuff, as long as that first launch is a reasonable expectation and a reasonable goal, the launching might be the thing that actually helps you do all of that other stuff and make more impact with that other stuff. And it becomes this sort of rewarding, virtuous circle. So that's that. Now, I will also say that I do use paid traffic strategies. We have a launch coming up on Valentine's Day for the next issue of Sync. And so I've got a Facebook ad running, giving away free copies of the very first issue, and that get people, they download the free copy, they get on our email list, they get invited into a sort of an email sequence where we share more about our stuff, give them access to a few more of our comics and other stuff that we're all about. And then we're going to point into our Kickstarter. So, there is our strategies like paid traffic strategies that will get us in front of eyeballs that we would never otherwise reach. So yeah, those are some things there.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, it just amazes me how, like what you're saying with Kickstarter, how you might launch a product, and obviously when you start out first, like I think I had a goal of $1,000, and I think the first issue of Luminous Ages raised about 4.5 to 5,000, and I was just blown away at that. And yes, there was a lot of my audience there, but then another 100 people I didn't even know who they were.
Yeah.
And every project, there's always new people coming aboard. Yes, you got to bring some of your audience, but then, Kickstarter traffic, people find you. And literally, I had one project where people would search a particular word. I won't say what that word is, but they were searching a particular genre of fantasy, and they were finding my project, and it's crazy how that works, So, but yeah, and thanks for the other tips as well. I mean, Facebook works for me. I love to post in groups, and I find groups actually works for me. And everyone, I suppose, I was talking to another creator about it, but I think it's specific to, you got to market specific to your brand and what you do. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So like, if you're, more horror, you're going to target it, or if you've got more adult audience, you're going to target an adult audience, and maybe Facebook ads work. Whereas my audience is more G-rated, so I've gone into libraries and to schools and to teachers and say, hey,
Mm.
you want to get onto Luminous because that's more of a G-rated audience. So I think it also depends on the audience and your market who you're going for. That makes a really big difference. Like I know the next book um, I'm doing in June, I'm probably going to start hitting the schools more. You know what I mean? And
Nice.
libraries, and so that way they know, hey, that this independent author's releasing this book. But it depends on how violent I make the next comic of Luminous Ages, I suppose. So,
Yeah.
there's a bit of fantasy violence in there, so we've got to be careful there.
Yeah, well, I know you're also somebody that is big on the convention scene, and I'll actually finally be getting back to it this year after taking some pandemic stretch during the pandemic off completely. But you can't really overestimate the value and the long-term value of those face-to-face communications
Yeah.
and conversations. I had a email from a guy last week, and he just sort of replied to an email that I'd sent out, and he just said, just wanted to thank me for the content over the years. He said he met me at at a convention when he was 11, and he's 22
Wow.
now, and he's getting
Wow.
ready for his first Kickstarter launch, and he's been
Oh, wow.
following and checking out the Comics Tribe stuff, and been backing projects ever since, and just excited, and he just remembered the conversation that we had.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's crazy that like I think the conventions have been a big kind of thing for me as well. Like just the fans that have come from conventions, I collect emails at a con. Like I normally will allow people to kind of put their name and email down, and they join my mailing list at a comic convention as well. But I actually had a similar experience. It was in person where a, a, his name, I shouldn't say the name maybe, but it's an Australian creator. He's Indigenous background, and he came up to me and he was like, "Dude, I've loved your comics." And he goes, "I've got my comic out," and I go, "I know, I saw it over there." I was like, "Wow!" And I picked up his first issue of his comic, and he's actually gone crazy viral with it, like with this comic. It's an amazing series, and it's great to know that you've inspired people to do that, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I've been watching you for years as well." I'm like, "Thanks, man." He just, and he's basically said, "I've finally, got up and done my own comic, and thank you," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's awesome." And to be able to inspire others as well and see them actually succeed is such an amazing feeling. You know what I mean? Like, it's just great to do that
Yeah,
for people.
the ripple effect is pretty amazing of just how, positivity and support and sometimes the right nudge at the right time, just down the line, like the impact it has is made. I think it's one of the reasons our community is so strong. That's one of the reasons our community succeeds, where a lot of other categories on Kickstarter fail, is just that it really truly is a community, and rising tide lifts all boats. So we love seeing that.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about community and mindset and positivity there. Like, I find that that is a really important game, isn't it? Like having the mind space and mindset. I know I've joined your mastermind so many times, and it's been so uplifting. Tyler, for those of you that don't know, Tyler runs like a mastermind where creators get together, obviously for a paid fee, but we all get together and offer so much. There's so much value in it because like creators are talking, and there we go. Sorry, we got a bit of an interruption there. Creators are talking and giving each other tips and advice and all that sort of stuff. I find that mindset, if you don't have your mindset game on, where you're in the right mind space to create, and like you said, talk about, you're going to be passionate about your stuff. How important is mindset in being a creator? Like, would you say it's like number one? Like, it's just like positive mental attitude, all that sort of stuff. It's so important, isn't it? Like, if you're going to be creating comics. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely important if you want to be in this for the long haul. We had our mastermind meeting last night, actually, and you may remember, like, I do back-to-back sessions with those, and they go pretty late, so I'm low on sleep today myself, but they're great, and we always start the sessions with wins, where we just ask creators to share a recent win, right? And it doesn't have to be like earth-bending, win. It could be as simple as, man, I had 3 really good days in a row of drawing pages that came out and that I was happy with,
yeah,
or it could be, got that script done ahead of schedule. It could be, hey, my Kickstarter is now 90% funded and I've still got time on the clock, So, but if you don't focus on the wins, we as humans with reptilian brains and, all sorts of, and predisposed to look for threats like everywhere we go, we end up just focusing on the bad stuff, the challenges, the problems, the struggles. And so, yeah, mindset is everything. We had a creator that in the mastermind yesterday, sort of talking about how he is feeling the crunch that we all feel of, like, work life, creative life balance, and having there be just this gap between how much he's trying to achieve versus what he's actually currently achieving. But what he wasn't paying attention to was what he was currently achieving compared to where he started. And it became quickly clear in that group that, like, multiple members of the group were like, man, how much you inspire me. How much that we look up to you as a creator that's knocking it out of the park and doing things right, and that we're trying to get to your level. And so it's important really to have that kind of mindset when you're in this, because, we're all on a journey. There's some people going to be ahead of you, some people going to be behind you. But as long as you're moving forward and as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, like, great things are going to happen to you.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note, we don't have much more time, but I like to end the interview with gratitude. Like, what is something that you're grateful for? Can be something in your life or something today. I know you said you've had a long day, but what is something that you're grateful for at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, we just celebrated my son's 5th year on Earth, so he just turned 5, and so I am grateful for a little guy who laughs at all of my dad jokes and loves playing superheroes. And even though he never lets me be the good guy, I always have to be the bad guy, and he always has to be the good guy. But so I'm definitely obviously grateful for my family. And then, I am grateful that I have discovered the power of gratitude. Um, Anyone that gets into the Kickstarter game is going to go through an emotional roller coaster, as you know.
Yeah.
You know how you can launch and have thousands of dollars come in the first couple of days, and you feeling, on top of the world and that everything's going right. And then by, day 15, you get a couple of drops, a couple of slow days with no backers, and you're all of a sudden like, what's going on? Nobody loves me anymore. Like, panic. Like, what do I do? And it ebbs and flows. And the one cure, the one way to keep that nervousness, that feeling of lack, that just self-centered downward spiral is to be grateful, to recognize that, you get to do this and that and to acknowledge, all the good things that you do have around. And when you can stay in that space, it's attractive, as opposed to the very negative downward spirals that some creators can find themselves in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think gratitude is the greatest thing. Like we were saying before, I'm building a studio at the moment, and I've got my father helping me. He used to be in the building game. He was a plumber. He's done a lot of carpentry, tiling, so he's helping me build the studio. And then I've got three best mates that like they've been friends for years, but they're out of nowhere, and a cousin who just like, hey man, we'll help you hold that gyprock up, and we'll get that, drilling all those parts and all that. And it's just
Yeah.
like having my best friends and my family, my sister, who always offers encouragement and was always, positive and happy. And it doesn't have to be that family are always there for you to do stuff, but they're also offering words of encouragement and positivity. And I think, like you said, if you don't practice, like, it's not if you don't, but I urge all my viewers, like, if you're having a bad day, and like sometimes we all have bad days, you know, sit down and focus on things that you can be grateful. It can be like the air, it can be the trees, it can be anything simple. It doesn't even have to be family or friends or anything like that. It could just be like, hey, I'm alive today. Like some people don't even wake up. You know what I mean? And so it's just, I think that practice has been so important in my creative journey as well. Like
Mhm.
to be like I always say, I get to paint pictures, even if like I've got three deadlines or three paintings going at once or two comics.
Yep.
Like I get to do this every day. Some people don't get to do that. You know what I mean? And some people are fighting to do that. They may like I've been there working a 9 to 5 job like you. Did that for 8 or 9 years, and
Yep.
I know what that drudgery is like. So moving from a 9 to 5 office job as a graphic designer or whatever, a salesman, and then moving into doing something I love every day. I get to do this every day. I get to paint every day. I get to write. I get to talk to amazing people like you every day. So
Yeah.
it's just important. But man, look, we're coming at the end. I want to thank you. It's been amazing talking to you. If you want to promote anything or tell people about your next Kickstarter, we're gonna post it around when you launch. But tell them
Yeah.
about it. Or
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm jazzed about that I think your listeners that are interested in both the creative side, but also the business side, and potentially interested in launching on Kickstarter and becoming the next Anthony Christou, I just released a new strategy guide. This is 7 new strategies that are working for comic book creators and writers and artists like us on the Kickstarter platform right now. It was about 4 years since I released my last guide, and a lot's changed on the crowdfunding and Kickstarter landscape. And so I highlight some really good creators, show examples of the strategy, show how it's put in action by the creators, and also share just step by step on how you can implement it yourselves.
Awesome.
And it's a free guide. You can get it at Comics Launch, COMIX launch.com/super funded.
Yeah, I've listened to some of that. It's really got lots of good advice. So I'm actually going to play it today when my staff are here. So we're going to have a
Oh
listen.
man, there you go.
Well, thank you very much again, and I'm sure I might have you back on again in the future. But yeah, we'll post any Kickstarters as well that you've got pumping at the moment. The Valentine's Day one, I'll have the link there. We'll be putting this video out during your Kickstarter and mine. So yeah, take care, man. Thank you so much for coming on board. So
Take care, Anthony. Appreciate you.
thank you, man.